We'll see if that's in my budget for this year, but I'd love to get a new Mac Mini. But yeah, but I mean, look how slow it is, guys. And we're going to 60,000 epochs here. So let's assume we're going to get to a better model. But if the performance stinks, have you won? Yassine says absolutely not winning. Yeah. I mean, this performance stinks right now, right? So I hope you guys can see that, fancier is not better. Sometimes a simple model gets you to a better answer, right? And maybe we can say, hey, look, maybe RNN isn't the best solution here. Is it feed forward? Maybe, but we have to try other experiments. So far, it's the champion model, but maybe we want to try CNN next, right? But this performance right now is terrible. In a way, it makes sense though, because remember, if we're going from just doing the forward propagation to doing the forward and backwards propagation, we've massively increased the number of calculations we're doing, right? So maybe the win is in just doing that forward pass. Maybe you don't need back propagation. I mean, look at that. Our second result of epochs came up. And we sat here and we waited for an additional 2,000 epochs and we gained 0.0002 in our loss. That's a slow day, guys. That's a slow walk. So we have to think about that, right? Just because you run an experiment doesn't mean, or just because you're running what you think should be the latest and greatest experiment, latest and greatest architecture, doesn't mean it's always going to have a positive result. Something to think about, guys. All right. Anybody have any additional thoughts while we're waiting? I think I think we're going to be waiting a while, guys. Jeez, this is slow. This is slow. And we went to 60,000 epochs. Good lordy. I'm looking here, 1253, 1252, 1254, 1259, 12.7. So we're getting slightly better loss. We got a better loss here. But this is not good, guys. Should our experiment be based on looking for optimal solutions? So starting from the minimum resource consuming hyperparameters, and then increase based on that while choosing the one with less impact on resources. Hard to say, Yassine. Hard to say. You can choose whatever you'd like. There's no laws to it. But in my experience, the biggest determinant of what you need is going to be like the due date, right? Because remember, in everything we've talked about, this experimentation, the hyperparameters, the number of calculations we're doing, we've completely ignored the element of deadlines and time, right? There's going to be times when you have to ship a model that you wish you had more time to work on, but you have to ship it because the project manager said so. Like, that's just a real world reality, right? So keep that in mind. Yes, I mean, that's how it answers you. See, there's many ways to go about it. Just pick one. But most of the time, it'll just be time. Salient says, better architecture comes at computational cost. That sounds suspiciously like, what is that called? An oxymoron, right? Is it better if you have a more computational cost? Like, is it better? Like I said, have we won here? I don't think we've won, right? So that's better in quotation marks. This doesn't feel any better, right? So Yeah, Salen, I'd say that you're posing an oxymoron there, right? Sure doesn't feel like we're doing any better. Man, this is going to take a while. And we're basically at the same loss as before. So this is also a good time to kind of illustrate what I mentioned to you guys about early stopping, right? If we know that we can get to a model that gets us to this loss, why would you accept this loss at 6,000 epochs? Like, yes, maybe that could improve, but if that's going to take you another 3 hours to get there, I could run a lot of experiments in 3 hours, right? So this is where you might say, okay, you know what? Let's stop this. Let's move on to something else. Let's stop here. We've reached the best we can do with RNNs. Let's try CNNs. Like, that would be a valid conclusion at this point, right? We would exercise our early stopping decisions, and we keep the results, right? Because we want to document all experiments, but we move on to something else. This is a really good example of that. We're at 8,000 epochs, and granted, that is the lowest loss we've seen so far, right? We've never hit 1251. So kind of sort of headed in a good direction, but not very fast, right? So something to think about there too, guys. All right, so we covered a lot of ground today, guys. I hope that this has been beneficial in understanding all of the different approaches that we could be possibly using, right? Because there's a lot to it, right? There's a lot of different variations, a lot of different things that can be tried, right? Yeah. So I'm going to let this run in the background, see where it ends up. But I think I want to wrap up here because we've gone for almost almost 3 hours. But I want you guys to think about all the different things that we've covered today, because that means that next week's lightning round review is going to be very interesting, right? Lots of things to talk about in the review. Feel free to look up the definitions for CNNs and RNNs in the nerd explanations. But the bottom line is that sequence matters. We're going to see that in NLP. You're going to see that in image processing, right? But sequence does matter. Maybe it didn't matter for us in this example because the XOR table is only 4 inputs, right? Four rows. 4 rows, 2 different classes, right? But you can kind of get a feel for how you experiment your way to a solution, right? Let me know if you have questions in the meantime. But really happy you guys attended. Hopefully you guys get something out of this session.